Karnataka launches Clean Energy Incubator, backed by Australia. Karnataka's Energy Department has signed an agreement with the University of New South Wales, NSRCL, at the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and FSID at the Indian Institute of Science to build a structured incubation pipeline targeting roughly 20 clean energy ventures annually. The focus areas span solar, wind, energy storage, green fuels, and emerging technologies, with a planned innovation hub in Bengaluru, led by the Karnataka Renewable Energy Development Corporation Limited. What makes this worth paying attention to is not the announcement itself. State-level energy partnerships are not unusual. What is different here is the combination of institutional credibility, international commercialization experience, and a deliberate 3-year structure designed to move startups past early-stage incubation and into market-ready products with global network access built in from the start. The commercialization gap this is trying to close. India's clean energy ambitions are well documented. The country has committed to 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel capacity by 2030, and investment interest in the sector is substantial. What has been harder to close is the gap between research output and technology that is actually deployable at grid, industrial, or mobility scale. That gap has slowed the pace at which India's clean energy innovation ecosystem converts academic work into commercial products. The state of Karnataka accounts for roughly 35% of India's total tech startup activity, and Bengaluru's venture and talent infrastructure is already established. The missing piece has been a structured pathway that takes clean energy ventures from research through commercialization with international exposure alongside it, rather than as an afterthought. That is where UNSW's involvement changes the picture. The university has one of the most recognized clean energy commercialization tracks in the world, with alumni companies accounting for more than 60% of global solar panel efficiency records. Embedding that network directly into a state-level incubation structure is a meaningful shortcut for ventures that would otherwise spend years finding their way into global markets independently. A broader pattern worth understanding. Karnataka is not doing something entirely new. What it is doing it more deliberately than most. Subnational governments across several major economies have been quietly building localized clean energy innovation ecosystems, rather than waiting for national frameworks to move at the pace the energy transition actually requires. Similar models have taken shape in Gujarat in India, New South Wales in Australia, and Bavaria in Germany, each driven by the same underlying calculation. National policy timelines and grid constraints are creating friction that regional governments can partially work around by building their own commercialization infrastructure. To reach its ambitious 2030 net zero goals, India has launched a massive clean energy roadmap requiring approximately $500 billion in investment. This initiative aims for 500 gigawatts of non-fossil energy, with 50% of the target already achieved 5 years ahead of schedule. That domestic demand base is large enough to validate technologies before they reach international markets, which is precisely what makes a well-structured state-level incubator a more compelling proposition than it might appear in a smaller economy. Ventures coming through this pipeline will have a substantial home market to prove out against before they look outward. What this actually means for companies tracking the space. For companies in energy, manufacturing, and infrastructure, the practical implication is straightforward. The technologies most likely to emerge from this pipeline, particularly in storage integration, green hydrogen, and advanced solar applications, are being developed with export readiness built into the program from the beginning. That is a different kind of pipeline than most state-level innovation programs produce. Companies monitoring this space for procurement opportunities, partnership potential, or competitive intelligence now have a more defined and credible pipeline to track. The question is not whether Karnataka can produce 20 startups a year. It almost certainly can. The question is whether the structure around those startups is rigorous enough to produce the handful of deployable technologies that justify the international partnership. The institutions involved suggest it has a better chance than most programs of this kind. You've been listening to Sustainability Soundbites by Environment and Energy Leader. For partnership opportunities, please reach out to our team.